Hi you guys, my name is Maddie and I'm currently a second year student studying in the Faculty of Land and Food Systems at UBC Vancouver. I am in the Food Nutrition and Health General Major program, so I'm here to talk to you just a little bit about what that program is like, but also what my experience at UBC has been like as a whole. I chose to go to UBC for two main reasons. One was because it was really close to home and I love my family so much, and the other part of it was that it had a very reputable science program. Overall, I really love the F&H program because it gives you a lot of flexibility in your upper years. In your third and your fourth year, almost half of your required courses are electives, and this is something that I think is so great. With respect to the culture of land and food systems as a whole, it is an incredible community. It's super diverse, there are so many different programs, and the people within it are just so incredibly kind and sincere, and they really contribute to this overall sense of belonging. Teaching styles really depend on the prof that you have. For the most part, it's pretty consistent across like science courses or arts courses or F&H courses. A lot of profs rely on PowerPoint presentations or in-class videos or worksheets, things like that. But then again, it does depend on the course material because you can't teach every single course the same way. I have noticed a bit of a difference between F&H exclusive courses and then science courses and arts courses in the way that they test. So in science courses, there's a lot more reliance on midterms and quizzes and final exams, and also homework assignments. That's a really big thing. But then in my F&H courses, as well as some of my LFS courses, there's a lot more reliance on group-based projects, as well as small quizzes, written work, and some midterms. Another really big thing with science courses is that they usually have labs or a tutorial, and those take up so much time. Especially labs. Labs are pretty intense. There's usually a lot of pre-lab work that you need to do before actually getting to your lab. And then there's a lot of work you have to do after in terms of writing your report and submitting it. With tutorials, that's more of a work period time that allows you to work through some practice problems directly with TAs, and they'll go over certain concepts that are generally a little bit more challenging just so you have a chance to really solidify that information. In terms of timing, the setting, and the way you're tested, I think those are probably the three most significant differences that I noticed going from high school to university. It was pretty overwhelming at first because I had no idea what to expect for my first exam. And I remember walking to this massive gymnasium with like over 1,000 desks lined up, and there were professors on the mic, instructing us as to what to do and where to sit. And it was just a very intimidating experience. And then the other thing too that I noticed was that university exams are almost all application based rather than recall. They're going to teach you the basics of the concepts. They're going to hope that you fill in some of the blanks and piece together a little bit more information, and then they're going to give you an exam that's going to test to see whether or not you can take what you've learned and apply it to a certain situation or context. So I think in that sense, it's a little bit challenging just because you really need to know what you're being tested on. Everybody's study habits are going to be different, but some of the things that I found to be really, really effective, especially for studying in F&H, is group-based studying. And this is pretty straightforward. Find some friends and study with them. But what I really like to do is discuss my thought process and what I understand about a certain topic with somebody else. Another really great thing that I like to do is draw diagrams. I have so much fun getting creative with stuff like that, and because it's fun, I tend to absorb a lot more of the content when I'm working in a very hands-on environment. For my science-based courses, which are also a part of my degree, but a little bit different in the style of learning, I find practice problems are the best way to try and work through what I don't understand and practice the material that I'm being taught. So the way I study kind of depends on the courses that I am studying for, but one commonality across all of my courses are learning goals. And learning goals by far are one of the most useful tools your profs could ever give you, and they are telling you what to focus on amongst all of the content that your profs are teaching you. So for me, I have found that to be a really effective way to study, going through them, turning them into exam style questions, and making sure I can answer them as thoroughly as possible has been a great way for me to solidify what I know and again, see what I don't know and what I need to focus on. In your first year of the FNH program, you will be studying a lot of general courses just to build that foundational knowledge you need for your upper year courses. So in my first year, I think I took 2 chemistry courses, I took 2 physics courses, 2 biology courses, 2 math courses as well, and I'm currently taking a human anatomy and physiology course. It's pretty general, it's not that exciting, but come second year, that is when you start to dive into the nitty-gritty of things. It is still a little bit general in the sense that they're starting to introduce you to what nutrition really is, what these different nutrients are, and what our metabolic processes are. But in courses such as biochemistry or organic chemistry, it's a lot more specific to different cycles and systems and the way that the universe works as a whole. All of it really hones in on how your body metabolizes food and what those processes look like. So you're looking at it from the perspective of chemistry and how different chemicals and compounds are metabolized in our body. And nutrition really just ties back to what those key nutrients are, what the different processes for digesting and absorbing them are, and how they affect our overall health. Another really interesting thing about the FNH program is that because it's in the Faculty of Land and Food Systems, there's also a lot of focus on food systems, but also the sustainability of the global food system. So one of my courses, LFS 250, really looks at our global food system as a whole and all of the different components within it. I think anybody who really enjoys analyzing things from different perspectives, likes problem solving, and can tolerate a little bit of reading would really enjoy the courses in FNH. But the other part of this too is that I think to really succeed in this program, you have to be committed to studying the concepts and finding ways to study effectively. So not to say that you need to sit down and study for countless hours, but making sure that you're able to dedicate a solid amount of time to really understanding what's happening in each of your courses is really important in developing that foundational understanding of exactly what nutrition is. When it comes to your applications, whether it's for UBC or a scholarship, my very first tip for you is to brainstorm ideas and draw almost a concept map, linking all of these ideas and how you want to connect them. That's going to help you write a really solid draft for your application and make sure that it is cohesive and concise, because usually you don't get a lot of words to explain what you want to say, whether you're talking about an experience that you had or something you want to go and do. So making sure that you've got it in a very condensed but strategically worded form is really, really important for completing a successful application. The other thing here is that giving yourself the time to write your application is very, very important. I know a lot of students that have left it to the very last minute, only giving themselves a few days. And at least the way I look at it is if it's something you really, really want, you're gonna want to give yourself the time to work through it and make sure it's the best it can possibly be. When it comes to the written responses in your personal profile about extracurricular activities, I think the 3 big things that they look for is diversity, uniqueness, and commitment. And it's really important to make sure that you're talking about these in a way that isn't all about what you did for that program or that organization or as a part of that team, but focus more on what you learned from those experiences and what that allowed you to do for other people. When it comes to scholarship applications, it can be really appealing to apply for the big $50,000 scholarship, because what student doesn't want $50,000 to put towards their education? But the big part of this is that literally everyone will apply for that scholarship. So if you can do your best to try and find a lot of smaller scholarships to apply for, that may yield you more success in the long run than just trying to apply for a few really big ones. The other thing that I'm going to say with respect to scholarships is to make sure that you're really answering the question that they're asking you. And don't tell them what you think they want to hear. Tell them what you want them to know about you and your experience and what you want to do with your time at your chosen university. For FNH specifically, I think it would be really valuable if you were to consider taking some more project and application-based courses in high school if you could, just so you get some exposure to what it's like to work in that type of environment. And once you actually get to university, take what you want. Fulfill those burning desires to go and study, I don't know, economics, or maybe you want to really take a kinesiology course or something like that. You finally have the freedom to do it, so make the most of your time in whatever program you are in. Now, electives are electives for a reason. They give you a chance to explore different content that you may not be directly studying. But the other thing to keep in mind here is that you want to try and structure your degree that will in some way set you up for a sustainable career. The biggest thing to keep in mind is the workload of your required courses. Now, if you're taking chemistry, math, physics, biology, and you have one spot for an elective, I wouldn't recommend going and taking computer science as an example. I tried that, and it's hard because you may underestimate just how much work really goes into one university course, especially if it's not something that you're naturally strong at. So being aware of how much work you may need to put into a course is really important when it comes to planning your schedule. You don't want to overwhelm yourself, and finding that balance of work heavy with maybe a little less work heavy is really important, and making sure you are creating a sustainable schedule for yourself and one that will not overwhelm you. One thing that is really amazing about the FNH general major is that because you have so much flexibility in your upper years, you can tailor your degree in almost any way that you want. And because of that, it opens you up to so many different career possibilities. And right now, I'm really excited about the idea of possibly pursuing dietetics. And this is something that's only recently come on my radar, but I joined a club this year called NutriKids, and I absolutely loved every part of my experience with that. And it made me realize that I'm really passionate about working with kids specifically, and also love nutrition education. I know some other people that have gone on to pursue teaching directly in high schools or elementary schools, using their background in food, nutrition, and health to allow them to be a home ec teacher. And some people have gone on to more professional degrees. Others are working in food management industries. There's so much freedom with this degree. The only thing that you need to be mindful of is that because it is a more general degree, that often means you need to go and pursue another level of education, whether that be a master's or a PhD for those extra ambitious academics out there. But there is a lot of freedom when it comes to what you could possibly do beyond that. UBC has a really incredible first-year initiative program when it comes to student engagement and planning events for them, and especially in residence, you are the first person to receive any information about those events that are going to be happening. And I think most of the events that I went through were things that I heard about through living in residence. And not to say that you have to live in residence if this is the experience that you want, but a lot of the student experience comes from that first taste of independence and living on campus, getting to walk around and explore and just be a part of all of these things. One thing that a lot of people ask me is like, what's the party life like? And as much as I've been to a couple parties, I couldn't really tell you what's happening each weekend, because that's just not something that I'm interested in as much as, the clubs that I'm involved in. So I think one of the biggest things that I would say is that when it comes to the student experience, it's there if you look for it. There are tons of opportunities for you to really go and create that student experience. Now, this is going to look different for everybody because we all place value on different things. But for me personally, one of the biggest things when it comes to that experience is getting involved. So for me, that's looked like being a part of clubs, going to different events, participating in student-led initiatives, going to the occasional party, playing on a sports team, going to the beach, so many different things. UBC itself is an incredibly diverse school. There are so many people from across the world, and the international student body is probably close to half of the students at UBC. And what's really empowering to see is that UBC is working actively towards creating a really inclusive, comfortable, and safe space for different minority groups, people of different cultural backgrounds and ethnicities. And I think that's really important when it comes to university, because this is a place where people from all over are coming and sharing their experiences, their backgrounds, and their ideologies. And making sure that it's a safe space is really important and is most definitely a priority of UBC's. And with respect to diversity within the FNH program, there are quite a few individuals from all over the world that I have gotten to meet and talk with about nutrition from their perspective, but also more generally what their experiences were like in their home countries. And it's been really cool to see that. And it has exposed me to so many new ideas and ideologies that I wouldn't necessarily have otherwise explored without having met those people. So I think overall, yes, UBC and FNH and LFS in general are very diverse, and that is just something that's so incredible to see in this community. UBC is working really hard to make sure that their students have access to the resources they need, whether that be healthcare, insurance, academic and career support, financial aid, mental health services, anything of the sorts. They are working towards implementing programs that are helping students navigate these challenges. And it's really important to remember that as much as you are here for academics, there is so much more that comes with the university experience that life just throws at you. And whether it's something you expect or not, it's really great to know that UBC is there ready and waiting to support you if you need their help. I know for me personally, I quite heavily relied on the mental health resources in my first year, simply because I had a really difficult time adjusting to the lifestyle change that comes with going from high school to university. Within each faculty, there are also a team of academic advisors that are there to help you navigate any challenges related to your degree, whether it has to do with picking courses or credits or transferring or trying to get by a course that you're just really struggling with. And if that also means registering for the Center for Accessibility, they are there to help you and will go the extra mile to make sure that you're getting the support that you need. One thing that I wish I had realized in my first year is that where you start is not necessarily where you will end up. For me, because I started in the Faculty of Science and was working so hard in high school to get to that point, it felt like my world would just implode if I changed my mind and explored a different path. But whether this relates to changing your degree or how you did on an exam, and whether you're afraid of whether or not you'll pass the course or fail, if you're just having an off day or anything like that, how it all starts does not dictate how it will finish. And there's always something that you can do to change it for the better. It's just a matter of making that change. There are 3 more things that I want to leave you guys with today. The very first thing is to stay on top of your schoolwork. If I can give you any piece of advice, be diligent with your time, use a planner, and really just do your best to be proactive in your learning. If you don't understand something, go and talk to your prof and make sure that you're doing your best to stay on top of things, because trust me when I say it piles up quickly. And this kind of ties into the next thing. Number 2, advocate for yourself. Whether it's relating to content you don't understand and having to go and talk to a prof, or maybe asking for a regrade on an exam, or expressing interest in a job opportunity, make sure that you are doing everything that you can to make sure people know what your intention is. Advocate for yourself and be the person to get yourself from one place to the next. It sounds a little cynical, but at the end of the day, you are truly the only person that you can count on. So doing everything in your power to make sure that you are advocating for yourself is really, really important. And the very last thing that I want to share with you guys today is to trust the process. It's scary to give yourself up like that and to just be at the whim of whatever is going to happen. And trusting that things are going to turn out the way you want them to is terrifying, because you have absolutely no guarantee whether or not they will go the way you hope they will. But if I have learned anything in my time at UBC, starting in the Faculty of Science, going through what I did in my first year and navigating that change into LFS, it was terrifying, but it taught me that I have to trust the process and that it will work out the way things are intended to. It's very scary to sit there and trust that things will work out the way they should, but do it if you can, because let me tell you, when it finally gets to a point where you feel so excited and inspired by what you're learning and what your experience has been, it's the most incredible feeling. Anyways, that is pretty much it from me. So I really do hope that you found this helpful and maybe it inspired a little bit of confidence and brought you some comfort. At the end of the day, everybody's experience is going to be unique and different, but I am hoping at the very least that maybe you feel a little more comfortable knowing that it doesn't always go as planned. Anyways, thank you again for watching today, you guys, and I'm wishing you all of the best of luck in your journey, whether that be at UBC or somewhere else. Bye.